Unemployment drops to 5.1%. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Well, good news. Unemployment is down to 5.1%. Raise a stein to that. Let's have a look at this latest data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Now, I know there'll be some people that'll be concerned with the 1 hour a week working, but there's only about 11,000 people in all of Australia that can pull that off. And, more power to them, guys. More power to them. What we're looking at here is the ABS unemployment stats. And before we go into it, there's a few things I want to look at. Well, first, I want to actually look at the Roy Morgan unemployment stats. And I'll just bring that here. This is an alternative methodology to surveying and measuring unemployment. Now, we really want to just compare them. The rule of thumb is pretty much double the ABS numbers to get the Roy Morgan numbers. And the Roy Morgan numbers probably are a bit of a better reflection of what actually is happening. Now, according to Roy Morgan, unemployment has gone from 9% in April to 10.3% in May 2021. So it's increased. Unemployment is going up. This is unusual. They're both usually on trend. We can see here underemployment has gone down, unemployment has gone up. Combined under and unemployment has gone up, according to Roy Morgan. So different to the ABS. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on here. And another thing I want to draw to your attention is let's just remind ourselves of how the government has come to the rescue, everyone. Because here's the thing, this precedent has now been set of massive government spending at even the hint of a recession. I don't think you could get away anymore with saying this is the recession Australia had to have. What's going to happen in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, when we face another recession like this? Will there be more calls for insane stimulus? And the problem is, if we don't have the creative destruction necessary in an economy, how are people going to get punished or learn their lessons from making bad mistakes or bad financial decisions? Where are the inefficient companies going to be forced to scale back or to find new ways? It's going to destroy any chance of innovation or opportunity. Is that the bleak future that we're looking towards? That's probably the saddest thing of all of them. So we have trading while insolvent provisions, which really pushed companies below normal with regards to external administration or going under. You might say that's a good thing, but it's a recession, everyone. We're not meant to have half the number of businesses going under during a recession. You've got Jobkeeper. 9% of the Victorian workforce, nearly, about 8 point something, was supported by Jobkeeper. Everyone. And remember, these things are not without their costs. There you go, 8.76. New South Wales, nearly 8%. Nearly 7% here in Queensland of the workforce of employed people supported by this. You've got juicing the market, and here it's the housing market. You can see here, going crazy, building approvals. You've got loans of 5 and 2% deposit. 2% deposit. 2%. You've got the super withdrawals and negative gearing. Negative gearing is a systematic long-term issue, I would argue, resulting from our very high taxation. We're third in the world. It's really great. Something to be proud of, isn't it? You've got grants thrown at housing, home builder, other grants, and you've got a cash rate which is laughably low. You've got reduced housing supply brought on by council limitations. You've got mortgage holidays and just uncertainty driving people to save. You've got the not in my backyard crowd limiting development, limiting opportunities, limiting cheap housing. So let's have a look at this article too, because, if we're going to be going through unemployment dropping to 5.1%, I'd like to jump and have a look at this, which is discussing the end of Jobkeeper, everyone. Now, remember, I was concerned that we might see a cliff, a Jobkeeper unemployment cliff, but it looks like it hasn't materialized. Has Jobkeeper and the debt that we've incurred, has it been worth it? Because honestly, you know what the real reason for Jobkeeper was? Because there's no way Centrelink could keep up. No chance. So once again, private business had to, provide that role and at least maintain that relationship between the workers and the businesses. So at its peak, more than 3.8 million Australians were on Jobkeeper, 3 in every 10 Australian workers. Adding in those workers already employed by the government. It meant 4 in every 10 received a paycheck that originated from the government, more than in Russia. Yet when Jobkeeper ended at the end of March, it looked like a mere blip in employment. The unemployment rate actually fell for the 6 consecutive months. The Bureau of Statistics said the cutoff had no discernible impact. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg went further. The economy had strengthened even after the end of Jobkeeper. Since the end of Jobkeeper, 132,000 people had come off income support. The Treasurer is right. After March, the number of Australians on job seeker and related payments fell by 9%. But it is possible for people to come off benefits at the same time others are losing jobs, especially if something else is driving them off, as it was at the end of March. At that time, the coronavirus supplement that topped up unemployment benefits stopped. The payment dropped from $715 to $620 per fortnight. And job seekers were once again required to search for a minimum of 15 jobs a month, climbing to 20 from July. While burdensome for employers, if all of Australia's job seekers actually applied for those jobs, employers would be lumbered with 17 million applicants per month, climbing to 23. It's also unhelpful for job seekers. There's evidence to suggest job seekers get real jobs sooner if they don't have to go through charades. Well, you can't not have requirements for people to look for a job, because then there'll be some that won't look for a job. Okay, that's it. The idea is that you don't need to go through 15 jobs to look for it. You should go and find a job. So you don't need to go through 15. If you find one in the first 5 jobs, then you don't need to look for another 10. And you're not doing it every month because you're meant to get a job within a couple of weeks. You're not meant to be dependent on, this isn't UBI, and UBI has failed. We've seen that. I've looked at it on the channel. They did it over in the Scandinavian countries. It made people feel nicer, but it made absolutely no difference. This is an emergency temporary payment to stop people from being destitute. That's what it is. It's not a replacement for income. It's not meant to take the place of a job. That's not what it's intended to. If you have enough cash savings, enough money, assets of your own, you're meant to use those as your emergency fund before you depend on this. This is a last resort. The government aren't your friends. Paying taxes doesn't entitle, this isn't income protection insurance. This is emergency money. So, the DOB in a job seeker hotline will have further dissuaded them from applying for benefits. Those changes make the drop in the number of claimants understandable, much more so than the suggestion they got jobs, which in net terms they did not. Employment fell after the end of March by 30,600 according to the Bureau of Statistics figures, which were updated on Thursday. As many as 97,000 fewer workers. How is a drop in employment consistent with a drop in the unemployment rate? Are we having a lower participation rate? The unemployment rate fell to 5.5% in April, not because employment grew, but because 33,600 people who had previously identified themselves as unemployed dropped out of contention, changing their status to not in the labour force. There you go, the participation rate is dropping. People are losing hope. Had they continued to not work, but continued to describe themselves as unemployed, the unemployment rate would have been 5.7%. And it would have been higher still if those shifted to zero or reduced hours with the end of Jobkeeper had been called unemployed. Unemployment fell 0.2%, but hours worked fell 0.7%. My maths suggests this means the number of Australians actually working might have fallen by 94,100. An analysis prepared by the Melbourne University employment specialist Jeff Borland for the Fair Work Commission puts the number of jobs lost between 45,000 and 97. He gets 45,000 by comparing the number of people who left employment between March and April this year with the number who left between March and April in previous years. He gets 97,000 by comparing the average rapid growth over the previous 4 months as we emerge from the recession with the growth between March and April. 1 in 11 Jobkeeper jobs. A touch over 1 million Australians remained on Jobkeeper to the end, suggesting that as many as 10 in every 11 of them kept their jobs while Jobkeeper ended. 1 in every 11 might have lost their job. That's not that high. Australians most knocked around were the youngest. Since the end of Jobkeeper, women under the age of 30 had on balance lost jobs, while women over that age continued to gain jobs. Men under the age of 40 lost jobs, while men over that age gained them. The Treasury's deepest concern about jobs since the start of COVID, it mentions it at the top of that section in the budget, has been scarring. The unlucky young people who happen to not secure jobs during downturn can fail to secure them for years, being passed over by newer, fresher young people who are barely affected. Even when these people get jobs, if they enter the job market when the youth unemployment rate is 5 percentage points higher than normal, they can expect to earn roughly 8% less in their first year and 3.5% less after 5 years. It takes about a decade for the effect to fully disappear, and it's worse for women than men. Vacancies plus mismatch. Australia's record high vacancy rate of 2% of all jobs were vacant at the end of March. Makes it look as if scarring needn't be much of a concern, but jobs are vacant for reasons. It might be that the mix of jobs we will need is changing, or that employers can for the moment no longer rely on migration to give them the mix of skills they want. Or it might simply be that the general bounce back in jobs has been so fast that the right employers and the right workers are still working out how to find each other. Many businesses will die as a result of the end of Jobkeeper. Businesses are forever dying. Some have been kept alive for longer than they should have been, and some have exited Jobkeeper into a changed environment. We've managed to end Jobkeeper without a catastrophe, but that doesn't mean there hasn't been any damage, and it doesn't mean that young lives won't be scarred. After a textbook exit from a recession, the sharpest V-shaped recovery ever, it would be awful if we left a slice of Australian youth behind, or the young behind. And I'm not surprised that's a concern. So let's jump and have a look. Let's jump and have a look at, the drop in data, the data that's come from the ABS. Let's look at this media release now. So, the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate fell to 5.1% in May 2020, with employment increasing by 115,000 people from April to May, according to the ABS. Bjorn Jarvis, head of labour statistics at the ABS, said May was the 7th consecutive monthly fall in the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate fell to 5.1%, which was below March's 2020 of 5.3%, and back to the level in February 2020 at 5.1%. The declining unemployment rate continues to align with the strong increase in job vacancies. The number of unemployed people fell by 53,000 in May, down to 701,000. The number of unemployed people has fallen by around 303,000 since the peak of 1 million unemployed people in July 2020. The youth unemployment rate increased by 0.1 percentage points, but remained low at 10.7% is low. The last time we saw youth unemployment rate as low as in April and May 2021 was in January 2009. Wow. I'm glad I'm not a youth anymore. Employment now is work. The latest fall in the unemployment rate coincided with a strong increase in employment between April and May. Employment increased by 115,000 people in May, following the 31,000 fall in April, around Easter holiday period. Over the past 2 months, employment increased by around 84,000 people and was 1% higher in May 2020 than in the start of the pandemic, Mr. Jarvis said. The number of employed women increased by 69,000 in May and the number of men by 46,000. Female employment was 1.6% above the start of the pandemic, compared with 0.5% for men. The increase in female employment in May means that a higher percentage of women were in paid work than ever before, 58.8%, 0.7 percentage points higher than the start of the pandemic. The difference was even greater for women 15 to 64, whose employment to population ratio in May was 1.5 percentage points above March 2020, Mr. Jarvis said. Hours worked increased by 1.4% between April and May and 0.7% over the past 2 months. Hours worked were 2.9% higher than at the start of the pandemic, 1.4% higher for women, and 2.1% for men. Participation. The participation rate increased 0.3 percentage points to 66.2%, following a 0.3 percentage point fall in April, and was close to the historic high in March 2021 of 66.3%. The female participation rate increased 0.4 percentage points to 61.7%, and also close to the March historic high. The male participation point increased 0.1 to 70.9%. Underemployment. Underemployment decreased by 0.3 percentage points to 7.4% in May 2021, its lowest level since January 2014. It was 1.4 percentage points below the start of the pandemic, 1.9 percentage points below for women, and 0.8 for men. The underutilization rate, which combines unemployment and underemployment, decreased by 0.7 percentage points to 12.5. This was the 8th consecutive fall in the underutilization rate since October 2020 and the lowest level it had been since February 2013. Today's release includes additional analysis of hours worked, including people working 0 hours. So let's have a look at that data and we'll see if anything jumps out here. Unemployment rate, there you go, down. Yearly change down 1.9. And there you go. Look at that. Have I updated my unemployment chart? Yes, I have. There you go. Everyone, look at that. Look at that. That's what happens when you pour a whole lot of money. Here's the employed people. Seasonally adjusted has gone up. And by the sexes. And monthly hours worked as well has gone up. Participation rate is slowly creeping back up. And underemployment rate is going down, which is good to see. Good to see. And what are we looking at? The states. New South Wales 5%, Victoria 4.8%, Queensland 5.4%, South Australia 5.8%, 4.7% WA, 5.7% Tassie, 4.5% NT, and 3.6% in the ACT. Not surprising. So what is the solution or the takeaway from this, everyone? Well, here's the thing. There's going to be calls when we have another recession, another economic issue for more intervention, more spending. Now, none of this miracle that they're saying that unemployment is going down, that we've weathered the recession, that it's all good. Remember the debt. Nothing comes without a price. That's future work that we'll have to do. Even if they inflate it away, that's still a hidden tax that you're paying. The purchasing power of all of your money is disappearing. Remember the debt. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Good news to all the people that have gotten a job. Fantastic to see. If you're a fan of the channel and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can sign up for SelfWealth or Stake, use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve or AussieBroadband, buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.